Chapter 3, Section 3, Egyptian Religion. Have you ever tried to organize your friends or family to take a trip or to do something around the house? If so, you've probably realized that getting people to do something together sounds easier than it actually is. People have their own opinions, and it takes special skills to get the best work out of people. What do you think those skills are? Pause the video for a minute and think about it. Some other questions to think about as we explore this section. First one is, what role did religion play in ancient Egypt? And two, how did the Egyptians manage to build the pyramids without the knowledge of the wheel? Key terms will be defined for you through the Google Classroom are afterlife, mummy, and pyramid. Key place is Giza in Egypt. Throughout the section, please make sure you have out your notes to complete through the video and submit through the Google Classroom.
You will live again. You will live forever. Behold, you will be young forever.
The priest chanted these words as the royal family wept over the body of their most important member, the pharaoh. 100 days had passed since he had died. During this time, the royal officials had worked on his body. After wrapping the body in many strips of fine linen, they placed the king in a gold-covered coffin. It was decorated to resemble the man in all of his royal glory. The Egyptians believed in an afterlife, a life after death. With each step of the funeral, there were prayers to help the pharaoh's soul on the way to the afterlife. Then the nobles and royal family followed the body as it was carried to the royal tomb. Workers closed the tomb and the mourners went home. The pharaoh's journey to the afterlife had begun. Religion in Egyptian life. For the people of ancient Egypt, religion was an important part of daily life. It was the way people explained the workings of nature. Why was there an unexpected long period without rain? What caused sickness and death? The Egyptians believed that only magical spirits could control these events, so they tried to please their spirits, their gods. Each part of Egypt had its own gods and goddesses who had their own temples. The gods of Upper Egypt were different from those of Lower Egypt. Over the centuries, however, ancient Egyptians came to believe in several groups of gods. These included gods who were often shown as humans with animal heads. Among them was Osiris, the god of the living and the dead. And here we have Osiris. The chief god of the ancient Egyptians was Amun-Re. He protected the rich and the poor. The Egyptians believed that Amun-Re was born each morning in the east and died each evening in the west. That is why the west was believed to be the home of the dead. Egyptians preferred not to be on the west bank of the Nile after nightfall because they believed the spirits of the dead lived there. Amun-Re's name means the hidden one, and some Egyptians believed that Amun-Re watched over and judged all human affairs from an unknown, invisible, hidden place. According to Egyptian belief, Osiris, the god of the afterlife, had a family. Isis, his wife, was one of the most powerful of all Egyptian goddesses. The god of the sky, Horus, was his son. Egyptians worshipped Isis as the great mother who protected the health of her children. In Egyptian art, Isis and Osiris are often shown together. And here's the happy family. Life ever after. The ancient Egyptians believed the spirits of the dead made their way to the afterlife in heavenly boats. You can see an example of the boat. Once there, if they lived right in this life, they joined with Osiris and lived a life of ease and pleasure. They spent their days meeting and eating and drinking with their friends and family who had died. The souls of the dead could not survive without food, clothing, and other items from this life, however. The Egyptians took care of this by burying the dead with their possessions they had enjoyed in this life. A pharaoh's tomb could contain everything from sandals to furniture to even his favorite horse. And here is an example of the pharaoh's tomb and what was found inside it as he traveled to the afterlife. Egyptians believed that if bodies were preserved or made into mummies, the spirit would exist in the afterlife. The bodies of important people, usually royalty, were mummified. The process took 2 or 3 months. Workers carefully removed the organs, and the body was then filled with a natural salt and stored for at least 42 days. During that time, it completely dried out. Once dry, the body was cleaned and bathed in spices. Then it was wrapped with long linen bandages. Arms and legs were bandaged tightly to the body. A well-wrapped mummy had up to 20 layers of bandages. While workers were preparing the mummy, artisans were busy carving the coffin. Actually, there were more than one of these wooden coffins. A pharaoh had 3 or 4 coffins. The coffins fit one inside the other like a nest of boxes. The innermost coffin was usually shaped like a human body, with a dead person's face painted on the cover. These are also known, this picture you see here of the Egyptian coffin, is also known as a sarcophagus. Scientists unwrapped the mummy of Ramses II here and found that although some 3,000 years had passed since his death, his facial structure and hair remained well preserved. Okay, and because this is what he possibly could have looked like in life due to scientific and digital reconstruction. The tombs for the pharaohs. The planning for a pharaoh's tomb began as soon as he was crowned. The earliest royal tombs were made of mud and brick. However, as time went on, tomb building became an art. The pharaohs of the 4th dynasty built the largest and most famous tombs of all. These were the pyramids, as seen here. They were huge buildings with 4 sloping outside walls shaped like triangles. Most of the pyramids were built during the Old Kingdom. The largest is the Great Pyramid. It is one of several enormous monuments at a site called Giza. You will find Giza here on the map. Building the pyramids required a great deal of organization. The Great Pyramid, for example, is made up of more than 2 million stones. The average weight of each stone is 5,000 pounds. Each stone had to be hauled up the side and put into its right place. It could take 20 or more years to build a pyramid. The project began with the selection of a site on the west bank of the Nile. Here we have, once again, the Nile, and the sites were all on the west bank. Because remember that the west bank was the land of the dead. Once the site was chosen, workers cleared the ground. Engineers set the pyramid square so that the sides faced the main points of the compass: north, south, east, and west. Workers then cut the building blocks. Stone for the inner parts of the pyramids came from nearby quarries, but fine stone for the outside came from farther away. Some came all the way from Nubia. It had to be loaded onto barges and carried along the Nile or canals near the Nile to the building site. At this time, the ancient Egyptians did not use the wheel. To get the blocks of stone into place, workers had to use sleds, wooden rollers, and levers. They dragged and pushed the huge blocks up ramps of packed rubble to the level they were working on. Workers toiled all year, either in the quarries or at the pyramid site. They had to be fed at least twice a day. Archaeologists have found the remains of their villages. They know that the builders of the pyramids ate huge quantities of wheat bread. Archaeologists actually found the remains of a bakery among grave sites of the workers. Building pyramids was dangerous work. Each year, men lost their lives, crushed by falling blocks. But the workers believed in the importance of their work. To build a pyramid was an act of faith. It was a way of ensuring the pharaoh's place in the afterlife. Peering into a pyramid. The outside of a pyramid is extremely impressive, but the interior also reveals the high level of Egyptians' building and design skills. Examine this illustration of a pyramid. Look at all of the captions that describe each piece of the pyramid. Find the false burial chamber. Why do you think burglars would have wanted to rob a pharaoh's tomb based on what we've learned in this section? After coming to your conclusion, make sure you have completed all of your notes that accompany this video through the Google Classroom and submit for homework. Also, a few questions you should be able to answer on top of that homework is, how did the religion of the ancient Egyptians explain what happened to a person after death? Second, how was a pharaoh's tomb furnished? And finally, you should be able to describe how the ancient Egyptians organized the buildings of the pyramids. After you have completed all this work, we are looking forward to seeing you in class tomorrow.